What is the age of the discontinuity? Is the same of the main central thrust. For example, Catlus in 2001 and 2018 considered an age of the main central thrust between 25 and 6 million years. So falling completely in the same time span of the HD. So we started to work in the field. Here we can see a picture of the Marciandi Valley. Here there is a South Tibetan detachment, the Chami detachment, and here the main central thrust, upper position, lower position, but you will see this afternoon by some students of Capital Mondial the exact position of the main central thrust in this valley. And then we found a very interesting shear zone close to Jagat, in this area, where we found beautiful malonites with shear plane deep into the northeast, sense of shear top to the southwest, and we found also beautiful silimanite crystals growing along the shear plane. So with structural feature very similar to the HSP in western Nepal. So we checked also the deformation close to Chami detachment, and we went in the Nar Valley for a few kilometers, and we found beautiful kinematic indicators such as delta porphyroclast in this feldspar crystal, sigma type porphyroclast, and mica fish myosin leucogranite. But all these kinematic indicators point a top down to the northeast sense of shear. So at Chami we can we confirm the occurrence of the South Tibetan detachment system and not a thrust as proposed by Walters and Kohn 2017. And we made also some exploration in the Burigandaki Valley, and just in a similar village called Jagat we found a similar situation. So we can trace this shear zone across the two valleys in this position, in the middle part of the Greater Himalayan sequence. Here there is a South Tibetan detachment, and here is the main central thrust. To gain the age of the HD in close to Jagat and the age of the main central thrust, we selected 4 samples. One from the upper part of the Greater Himalayan sequence, one in the shear zone, one in the lower part of GHS, and one close to the main central thrust upper shear zone. They are malonite gneiss, paragneiss, and migmatite gneiss, the sample 33. We investigated this sample looking for monazite to gain the age of the shearing, and there you can see the sheared rocks at the outcrop, the scene section, and the scene section where under the optical microscope we detected the occurrence of a monazite. Then we checked the monazite under the electronic macroprobe to be sure not to confuse with other accessory minerals. We detected also the chemical zoning of monazite, and at the end we dated by uranium lead by laser ablation split system. That is a system that gives the age and also the chemical composition in the same place. That is very useful for this kind of investigation. Here you can see monazite under the electronic microscope, monazite after laser ablation with the holes, and chemical analysis of monazite showing a distinct composition between the core and the mantle for the yttrium contents. If we consider all the ages that we found in the monazite in the upper GHS and along the shear zone, we found all the ages in the yttrium poor core, indicating progressive metamorphism, because during progressive metamorphism, yttrium is concentrated in the garnet, whereas in the monazite, the yttrium is very poor. Differently, when we are in the retrograde condition, with breakdown and resorption of garnet, all the yttrium is released in the system and is concentrated in the rims of the monazite. So if you use the core with poor yttrium and the rim with higher yttrium contents, highlighted by red color in this picture, we can detect the prograde and retrograde path, following the paper by Williams and Jurčinović, Engi and others, 2017. There are several papers demonstrating this relation, also by Matthew Cohn. And a similar but inverse behavior has been detected by the thorium. With thorium, you have high core thorium and low thorium rings in the same path. So if we put all the ages in this diagram, we can see that all the ages in between 40 million years and 27, 28 million years are related to prograde metamorphism, and usually these monazite are included in garnet or in biotite, so they have a structural position related to the prograde path, whereas the green line shows the retrograde path of the monazite. That is the ages recorded by the rims during the retrograde part of the PT part. So for the sample 33 and 90, the ages are very similar. Prograde path up to 25, 27 million years, and retrograde path up to 15, 16 million years. But the game is not over, because in the Kaligandaki we found also an older shear zone, the Kalopani shear zone, just in the upper position of the Greater Magellan sequence, shearing the unit 3 of the Greater Magellan sequence, and we found for this shear zone ages of exhumation from 41 to 30 million years. So the meaning is that we have several shear zones: main central thrust, HHD, Kalopani shear zone, South Tibetan detachment with the different kinematics, but the exhumation of the Greater Magellan sequence started from the upper part, then moved to the middle part, then to the whole part when the main central thrust was activated. So the mechanism is an in-sequence shearing mechanism, starting from the upper position, but at the time of activation, as we can see from this picture, the depth was close to 30 kilometers, because you have 10 kilobars of pressure. So we have a progressive activation of shear zone from the older one to the younger one, from the upper part to the lower part. So going to the conclusion, GHS is affected by a regional scale high temperature shear zone that separate the mid-crustal rocks from the upper part and the lower part. The HD was active before main central thrust, but in an upper structural position. HHD caused the shifting of the timing of maximum PT condition, originally the hanging wall and the future. The shift is of nearly 10 million years. There is 10 million years of time between the exhumation of the upper part and the lower part. And if consider all the timing of activation of the Kalopani, HHD, and the main central thrust, we suggest an in-sequence shearing of the formation for the exhumation of the Greater Himalayan sequence. Okay, thank you for your attention.
And I would like to show you some of the problems we are facing with various types of geological field investigation in Nepal. And I think one of the key issues in Himalayan geology is mapping in detail. Due to the rugged nature of the mountains, as well as quite harsh climatic conditions, it is hard to do long field work. And also due to, I think, lack of time to spend in the field, we have been suffering from various kinds of maps. And the problem is very critical, because Now Nepal is going to develop its hydropower projects, roads, as well as other kinds of infrastructure. And the problem is very complicated. The geologists have put a lot of faults and as well as other geological structures, and the infrastructure developing institutions don't know how to read these maps, and they think our geological maps are equivalent to topographic maps, but they are not so accurate. Oh, the tectonic windows. I think the last 10 or 15 years, if we go through the literature, Himalayan literature, especially in Nepal and Sikkim, we will find many types of geological maps and cross sections. And sometimes it is quite, disappointing to be in the field and not to see any of these things mapped and depicted on cross sections. And I'm not trying to criticize anybody, but I would like to put forward the conditions what I found, and it is up to you to decide which is correct and which is wrong. This was, I suppose, the earliest geological map of Himalaya, Western Himalaya, between Nepal and India, the western part by Strachey. And interestingly, he showed shivaliks, as you can see, and these lesser Himalayan and greater Himalayan sequences with intrusive rocks here, and other sequences. That time we didn't have thrust faults. Sorry. Yeah, it is his cross section, and we see that he shows some igneous rocks and very beautifully the dipping direction of beds and these amphibolites in his cross sections. It was the first time when he put these beds and other things foliation in the cross sections. Then came the map of 1933 and from 97 onwards, and the geology started emerging from this part, from northwest to east, and we could see some kind of mapping going on in Kuma, Shimla area, and in Kashmir and in other parts. The first thrust sheets were put forward by Pilgrim and West, but later on, most probably they were not so much folded as they have shown here. But anyway, they were the first to show the thrusting in Shimla area. And these cross sections, were made by making kind of recumbent folds, tightly folded structures within this area. And the same area was mapped recently. And here we see, this was the area they studied. Here we see the lesser Himalayan sequences here, the greater Himalayan sequences. And here we see granites and other acidic rocks ranging in age from Proterozoic to Paleozoic. So that is very interesting, because in Nepal we think that we have only Paleozoic rocks, igneous rocks in the higher Himalayan sequence. But here, as well as in Almora, they have the Paleozoic rocks in the thrust sheets. They call it Zutog thrust sheet, others call it Chail or Ramgarh thrust sheet, but they are the same. This was the first window mapped by West near Shimla, north of Shimla in the Sutlej Valley. And he showed the window based on these stromatolith dolomites, some tertiary beds around here, and other mud and slates and other things. So it was almost completely, covered by this thrust fault of basically Shimla slates. Bertelsen made first cross sections across the Himalaya, and interestingly, his work is so important because we could see he tried to show many faults and naps here, as well as south dipping structures near the industrial zone, which we call now industrial zone. So it is, I think, one of the very remarkable sections of the Himalaya. And here we see the windows. Yes. Hagen, who worked for more than 9 years here, and it is his sketch map of Hagen. And we see Darandura area, this is Bazam, this is Buriganga area, this is near Jumla, and here we see Kathmandu Valley, and this is east of Kathmandu, and Arun, and this is Tamil window. I would like to point out to one important fact here, that you see these authors starting from Hagen and earlier, you see they have shown the concentric nature of these dipping up beds. You see the beds really bend around, you see, here as well as here, and here is almost completely dipping in every direction, and it really windows are there. Not only the top, but within the window, also these kind of structures were identified quite early, like here. This is the Hagen spectrum map, and we see the windows here and here, and of course, you know, this one, Trishuli Valley, and this is another window, and here it's not very clear, and this is the Tamil window. One important point here is that Hagen thought this is something different from all other rocks, and he thought that that should be something different from these units, and probably he was right in some way. Then came Ganser's, Hyman Ganser and Ganser's work, and they clearly showed these windows in different parts, and they made these cross sections, and the Swiss zone is here, and we could clearly see large scale thrusting in the Himalaya from the cross sections made by Ganser and Hyman Ganser. It was Fuchs who made this quite extensive, field work, and then he mapped windows in Nepal and in India, in East, and you can see the almost from Hagen, Ganser, and Fuchs, we come up with the present day geological map of the country. And look at the windows here, how they have interpreted. You see the structures here. The folding in the windows. Like Fuchs, this is Laford, who clearly show the MCT, more or less distinct structure, and the windows within this. And they also made some cross sections. Like here, you see the MCT, Dana, and this section, and strongly folded, and there is a Pepin sequence and inverted metamorphic sequence south of Dana. But suddenly we have this map in 2008, which is entirely different from the MCT I just showed you. Just I will go back here and here. You see, here you see we have windows and the rocks, clip-in and others. Once we go back, we see now MCT has come far south, and those Searle and others, they talk about, there are other authors inside, they talk about the structural shading and many other things. Effectively, their MCT is the garnet isograt, though they don't like to call it like that. But the point is, all the earlier discussions I just made clearly show that the rocks are not concordant. Actually, MCT will cross-cut our geological beds. If we follow this MCT, it will cross-cut all the geological beds. It will not be concordant to the foliation. And here, I'm sorry for poor quality. My main intention is to show which map you could prefer for your further work or research or hydropower project development. Here we have two parallel faults, MCT and Ramgarh thrust, going throughout the Himalaya here, Here we have along this MCT, around this, and no other thing, is all belongs to the lesser Himalayan sequence, and MCT is somewhere here. Here we have very different situation. Here we have the MCT here, and no MCT in this part. So these kind of things are really troubling. Others, not only geologists, but other people who are working for other kind of work, projects. This map is somehow, we can see some structures. The most important thing, I think, is to show the geological stratigraphy and structure on the map. Otherwise, it is very difficult to really understand it. You see, they have shown Kuncha and other younger rocks around, and there is an antiformal structure passing through this, as you can see. And Hagen had shown this already, and you can see these are in the core of the antiform, where we have the windows. All these windows are within the core of the antiform. And not only the high Himalayan sequence or great Himalayan sequence is folded, but the lower units are folded as well. And it was seen by many others, and anybody can go and check it in the field now, even now. But unfortunately, this area has been in a big controversy. But if we walk through Gulchi and there's a road to Saptabesi, you will see Bengard slates coming from here, and continuously you can trace to Saptabesi. But the rate of metamorphism will of course change from slates to kyanite. So the problem is, if we put the MCT based on isograds or greater metamorphism, maybe we need to put somewhere like this. Or if we put the MCT based on other kind of criterion, maybe you can put the MCT somewhere here or here or here. Yeah, this is the cross section from Radhathura area. You can see several imbricates here, many of them inside, but the exposed ones are just one at the surface, but all are inside, But how to know that they are there? But here you see they're slicing the Kuncha formation into different, different bands. But this is the map by Khan from Department of Mines Geology from the same area. This one, this cross section is almost from the same area as this map. You see, there are deep end strikes everywhere. He has made a meticulously accurate map. And you see, they are closed. They are all antiformal stacks. If you talk about these thinning tectonics, there must be stacks, But we don't see north dipping structures in this. And this quartzite band is coming like this here, and there's a tertiary bed here, which is actually moving somewhere here. And this map is incomplete because we are still working here. So that gives us a very different picture from the cross section. And Fuchs, who mapped this area with Frank, this is his map. And again, we see the lesser Himalayan sequence, all are folded. Here you can see a lot of folds in it. And it is his cross section, their cross sections. They clearly show the folds in the lesser Himalayan sequence. This is of course, the Great Himalayan or High Himalayan sequence here. And they are all folded. But if we make them all dipping like the imbricates, it will be quite difficult. Here, this map by Stocklin and others was based on about 18 topographic sheets that were mapped on a scale of 1:1 inch. And it is a compilation, and they have a western sheet as well. And this is not just a map of 1:1 million or 1:150,000 scale. It was based on many field data and from the aerial photo interpretation. So it is not just, and anybody goes to the field and just draws a line here or there and here, and everything, is something different. And it clearly shows that these rocks in the valley are above the gneiss and all other rocks, here. They are not below. these, these rocks. The stratigraphy is this way. This is down and this up, but not the opposite. They are not below and they are not above. That I will show you here. You see, but unfortunately, the same map prepared by the same government body has shown different names. Again, another confusion. You see, they have used the same map, but you see, if you look at the names here, formation names, they will be entirely different. My point is, what was the stratigraphic basis of that? Did they make stratotypes? Did they make stratigraphic sections from the area? Or if you pick up one name from here, another name from here, and one from here, and make a map, it will be very difficult. You must have a section, and then you have to follow stratigraphic code. Only then we can come up with a good, nomenclature. In that respect, this map is, I think, far better than this one. Again, go back to Hagen. We see this structure here. Very clearly, he showed that there is no fault in between. Even if, suppose we put a fault here, it will be an elder fault or younger fault because it will cross-cut the foliation. It can be older than the foliation itself. So, even if you try to put a fault around, it will be younger than the foliation. So, it must be a syncline and there must be a bridge. Gauss-Seidel Bridge. But look at this section from the same area. This is the Gauss-Seidel Bridge with so many slices without any field data. That is the most intriguing one, for me. Because you see, this is our well-known area. Tansen here, this is Palpa. Here we have Sakai's map of Tokuoka and others. Geological map of Tokuoka is here. Suraikol area's map is here. Then we have the Sakai's map, 2 maps. We have done some work here. But if you look at these boundaries, they are all straight and vertical. And you see, the folds, so sharply put folds around. And this is the cross section. But I just want to compare this map with our maps. Yeah, this is the ediform I want to show you from Pokhara, which is clearly, you can see, this is, Pokhara is somewhere here, valley. You see, this is a clear-cut ediform here. That doesn't exist in the cross section. And look at this one. This is, I don't claim that this map is good. But what I want to tell you is, you see, the beds are really folded. They are overturned stromatolites, upside down, posing stromatolites. And they are really strongly folded, as you can see, from the boundaries. And it is just a sketch map. The real map was prepared, it took about 2 years to map it, and one topography of 1:50,000. But this area is this one. It's the same area. Kusma is somewhere here. You see, Kusma is here, you see. Kaligandaki Valley is this one. But Kusma is here. This is the Kaligandaki Valley. I don't know. Sakai's mapping of Kaligandaki Valley was remarkable, and he was an excellent, mapper. But this map is this, just this one. Look at this one. Is it anything similar? It's densely folded, and completely, tangled confusion is here. Look at this part. This part is this map. And their cross-section passes through this folded structure, and many clip pen here. You see, you can see 1, 2, 3 clip pen are here, and all are folded together. But that doesn't exist here. So, just an example, we do have imbricate faults and some back thrust, like here. This is a pure back thrust. We can see here, and we see the back thrust here. Yeah, we can see the folded ones, structures around. Tight folding is seen. Yeah, you can see the tertiary beds just at the top, here, somewhere here. And if you compare this section with somewhat this one, They are totally different. Let's take a look at this central part where many researchers are working still now. Here you see, these are Tethyan sequences which are below the MCT. Here the Tethyan sequences are, here the Tethyan sequences have been put below, but in reality they are not below, they are above, as you can see from this sketch. And here we have this cross section. This is the cross section from here. But we clearly see that there is a continuous sequence, and these are the granites here. Here, this Paleozoic granites folded ones, and it's a complete sequence. And younging is to the top. They are not overturned. So there is the MCT is really somewhere here. Somewhere here.
Professor Vital, can you summarize?
Yes, I'm going down. So I just want to show you the problem with the map manipulation. You can see they are trying to put a fault around this, but they are not able to do so. So they are trying to put a lot of, like a vertical fault here, they are making a syncline. But these are not, they are all doing mapping on this 1:1 million or 250,000 scale. Again, they want to put a fold here. That is absolutely impossible because we don't have such structures. So I just want to show you this window, tapestry window, and map by shading. He just put a, outer sequence thrust in it and made a balanced cross section. Recently we have worked in this part, and our work shows that these are all continuous things, and this is the core. In the granite, the tapestry granite is in the core, near the core. And these are all continuous beds without any such complications. And this is our section column, and these are the isographs. And of course, we found that they are beautifully, distributed isographs, and they are completely inverted, without any doubt. But the isographs don't map structures. In conclusion, I would like to say that we need some more field work, and integrated approach with field and lab, and with a group of scientists can probably be the best way out of this kind of problem of mapping the windows in the Himalaya.
Ilmenite is formed near the shear plates, showing shear plates with kyanite and selimanite. Whether it is a breakdown reaction of muscovite plus quartz give rise to orthoclase and selimanite, how you can correlate whether it is a product of a prograde reaction or retrograde reaction.
Thank you for the question. We found the retrograde reaction because we can find silimanite after biotite and after kyanite. We have the silimanite as a stray shadow of kyanite, for example. So we have the quick metamorphism and the retrograde reaction.
In between, we do have these, these leucogranites and these myelonites and these things. So you mean to say that we have a shear zone between MCT and the STD, which is SD now?
Yes. I think yes. We published a paper in Health Science earlier this year, and I visited Sekil in 2006 maybe, and I found very strange because people put the main central thrust in the very higher position, just as the migmatites. So if you put the main central thrust lower, just in the boundary between greater Himalayan sequence rock and lesser Himalayan rocks, you can have a shear zone in the middle, as somehow detected by similar investigation. So I think there is discontinuities. This one in Sekima. I don't remember the name because.
Another point is that Professor Valdia, he puts between MCT, his MCT in fact is Vectrita thrust. What he says, Munshiari thrust, then Vectrita based on the brachial metamorphism, high grade metamorphism, then STD. So is it something, how do you take Vectrita as MCT or within MCT and STD?
Thank you for this question. This is just the topic that we try to answer in the last 2 years. we visited Gaval, and we have investigation in Vaikrita and Munsiari. And for the Vaikrita, we found the ages from 11 to 6 million years by argon on white micas. And during the last trip, just 2 months ago, we were to Badrinath, and we found a thick myelonite in between MCT, Vaikrita, and South Tibetan detachment. So I think it is possible to have such a discontinuity different from Vaikrita, and Vaikrita is more or less the main central thrust upward. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Nice presentation. New data from the Himalayas. Now the questions to Professor Vital.
I have some queries about these windows. Mostly in western part of Nepal, we see thrust sheets, very large thrust sheet. But whenever we go to the eastern part, then we can map the windows. So within this very short distance, this type of tectonic development, different type of tectonic development. So how can we interpret this tectonically? This is one my question. And second, we have several thrusts in lesser Himalaya. Say there is Tansen Klipe and Kapurkot thrust. So these thrusts, how can we link the event of these thrusts when they were formed? Whether they were older than MCT or younger than MCT. So these two are my curiosities.
I think the first question is somehow related to the erosion of the mountains and the movement of the river valleys and the rivers. Hagen has made a map of the rivers of Bagmati, Karnali and others. According to him, it seems that river have subsequently changed their course. And instead of flowing from north to south, they start flowing to east or west. And due to the tectonic movement in the Mahabharata range or to the south of that. So probably it can be linked up with the tectonics, of course, and the erosion, and the thickness of the shivaliks exposed. To the east of Kathmandu, shivaliks become very thin. And in Bhutan, the lesser Himalayan rocks come or override the sediments. So probably due to that, I think the movement was different, thrusting movement was different, and erosion was there. And there was some tectonic activity at the front. That's why we have this kind of large scale erosion in the central part and no erosion of this thrust sheet in the east. A second question is, we have many implicate faults, of course, and duplexes. There is no doubt about that. And we have, their age is difficult to, constrain now, but most of them are post, the Miocene, because we have the Dungri like younger Miocene beds, they are involved in thrusting. And that could be quite young, even a few million years. But because in the shivaliks we have the implicates, so they should be quite young.
How to define a window? Tectonically, now there is stratigraphic problem, there is so many complications. So how exactly we should define now a window so that a uniform definition can be done for that?
Thank you. I think it's kind of dilemma. Either we must have a knowledge of stratigraphy or we must have a knowledge of structure, or actually both. If we don't work out stratigraphy, we cannot define any thrust or windows. In our case, luckily we have generally quite metamorphosed rocks of Great Himalayan sequence, and we have less metamorphosed rocks at the base, and we can trace out the metamorphosed ones quite, accurately. So we can see that under the high Himalayan or the Great Himalayan sequence, we have the windows. That's a very, I think, a way of defining windows. And if there is extensive erosion, then we'll have remnants of cliff. There are two of them in the Himalaya that I didn't discuss now. So, but I think most important thing is to faithfully map the structures and the lithological units. If we don't map the lithological units faithfully and just rely on the other people's map, there could be troubles. Especially just recently in one hydropower project, one guy put the MCT and he used 1:1 million scale map, and his error was already 1 kilometer in 1 millimeters. That is too great for the hydropower projects. Another important point I would like to emphasize is that metamorphism was post-thrusting, as we are seeing in some part. So even the tertiary beds are metamorphosed, as Professor Sakai has shown in the windows. So don't take the metamorphism as the stratigraphic units. Metamorphism is very important, it is inverted, very fine, but we have to think of the protolith. You have to think of what was the rock before metamorphism. Then we can have the stratigraphic units more precisely, and then try to compare with existing stratigraphic units of other parts of Nepal. Thank you.
Yeah, one more thing is that, that's okay, and in Sikkim we have Rangit window.
Yes, sir.
It's a detailed, mapped in detail, what we have Proterozoic in the center, surrounded by Gondwanas, then MCT comes, and the whole thing is folded. So it is known as Sikkim dome. And there also a lot of complications are there, different maps are there. So I don't say that it is, the mapping is wrong or this, everything is okay. So that is a perfect window in the Sikkim Himalaya, which is accepted.
Yes, yes. Like our Taplejung window, they are very similar. Thank you.
Okay, the invited lectures are there. So the first invited lecture, I invite Dr. Krishna Prasad Kapale. He will be speaking on an overview of metallic mineral resources of Nepal with special emphasis on potential iron prospects and their importance in national development.
So the topic is, I told you just now. So in this, my presentation is quite different before, because it is a review paper, so not specifically scientific papers, particular points. So mainly I will discuss about this revision of General Geology of Nepal, very short, by 2 slides I suppose, and metallic mineral resources and iron prospects in particular, iron ore types, present status of iron ore deposits and prospects, national demand of iron ore and iron import situation, and then the prospecting and mining license issued by the Department of Mines and Geology, investment opportunities, conclusion and recommendations. So, in introduction, Nepal Himalayas, Himalaya, the highest and youngest mountain in the earth, it terminates, it terminates towards eastern and western part in the Indus, and then eastern part of the Brahmaputra River, and this is the whole Himalaya, and it forms the syntaxial bands in 2 places and become convex towards the south. Nepal Himalaya is almost 1/3 part of the whole Himalayan range, and then it lies in the collision zone between the Indian plates and the Tibetan plates. So in general, sequence and say general geology of Himalaya, this morphogeotectonic, technically Nepal Himalaya can be divided into 5. Many of you are aware of it. From north to south, near Himalaya or Tibetan plates, higher Himalaya, lesser Himalaya, sub-Himalaya, and then Tarai plain or the Indo-Gangetic plains. Prominent linear structures, we'll go further ahead. I don't like to go detail in the further. So some Nepe, Clippe, faults and transfer faults are developed, and granitic intrusion of formation in the lesser Himalaya, and then tertiary in the higher Himalaya and the Tibetan terrace. So geological structure, geodynamics, granitic intrusion and metamorphism plays quite favorable geological environments for more than 500 occurrences in prospective deposits of over 63 minerals, commodity including more than 30 metallic minerals. So metallic mineral resources, minerals are the, everybody knows that the hidden treasure and non-renewable mineral resources, which are the valuable asset of the country. So as per the Department of Mines and Geology published records, there is Nepal is fairly prosperous in metallic, non-metallic, energy mineral, and construction minerals. But on the other hand, there is no single metallic mines in operation at present. In spite of six mining licenses and 25 prospecting licenses are issued by the department. So, in the beginning, during the 1960s, Geological Survey of India, they have worked, and then followed by DMG, 1996 to present, and a lot of these union-funded mineral exploration development projects that has been worked and explored minerals in different parts and at different stages, mainly in the Lesser Himalaya and the Sub-Himalaya. Most part of the higher Himalaya, as always, Tibetan species to remain virgin. So, such limited mineral exploration activities reveal that higher Himalaya and the Lesser Himalaya regions are potential for metallic minerals like gold, copper, iron, silver, lead, zinc, nickel, tungsten, tin, etc., and barium, lithium, as well as beryllium and uranium, as well as even rare earth elements. Okay? Whereas Tibet tradition of Himalaya has potential for the radioactive minerals. So this is the metallic minerals. I made it simplified for about 17 minerals. So location and there, most of they are shown these metallic minerals over here. Now, knowing metallic minerals in Nepal's gold, we have the primary gold occurrences, 9 places in the 4 districts. Similarly, pressure deposits almost in all the major rivers which comes from the higher Himalayan side, and if you see the terraces in evaluation of the river beds, we can find the glacier gold. Similarly, silver mostly associated with the lead zinc. Similarly, copper 107 places in 30 districts, lead 70 districts, iron 91% location in 32 districts. So like that, so these are the minerals we have located in different parts of Nepal. So now specifically now I talk about the iron and its use and demand. Iron is the principal metals, as you know, used since long time and is still present. It is extensively used in all types of civil works, right? Civil construction work and infrastructure development works to manufacture heavy machinery equipments, arms, mechanical and agricultural tools, the furniture, utensil, iron and steel products, etc. Present demand of iron and steel is around 10 million tons, all including. This trend is increasing. I'll show you later. Now, iron ore deposits are mainly, we have the ore, hematite, magnetite, limonite, and nearly some siderite. Iron ore deposits prospect occurrence altogether. I told you before, 91 localities in 30 districts that has been identified and categorized them economic, sub-economic, and non-economic deposits. But many of them, they have not yet explored in detail. Right? So you have to do a lot of work on that. Some of these are deposits where locally mined and smelted in different parts in Nepal since historic time, but not after 1964. After 64, there were some mines, but after that, no. And at that time, a small gun factory was established in 1863 based on Khose iron deposits. And in those days, Nepal was also exporting copper and iron to Tibet. So these are the different potential mineral prospects and iron prospects I have shown to you in the location in the second location in the here in the second column, and the districts of these, their thickness, grades, and etc. is given. I don't have time to explain everything, but these are the location of iron deposits. Iron deposits, the main iron deposits out of. So these like this in Bajan, and this is Banglung, and this is our this Thoshe, this Phulchoki, and this Mukmanpur, and Chitwan, and this is in our Labdikhola, and it is very famous one nowadays. This is in Nawalparashi, and I'll explain also. So these are the other places where we have some iron prospects. And the old mining activities before 1951, iron ore were extremely mined and locally smelted people were fully dependent on their own indigenous production. But after 90 period, finished iron was available in the market. As a result, people left all these difficult activities of mining and they are attracted in agriculture and other fields. So all mines were totally closed by 1964 due to change of the new government policy, difficulties faced in the mining and gas, as well as very much complex geology and lack of the technical know-how. So at present, all required iron and steel have to be imported, 100%. Now myself, I did detailed investigation of Thoshe iron deposits. Rapid assessment of Phulchoki is Boda Pokhari, Tawari Pokhari, this Geological, Lokorban and all these things, and then reviewed quite a few literature on this, and then we prepare, and this paper is based on that, and this report. Paper is based mainly in the field observation, lab investigation, literature review, and basic verification and metallurgical testing. So this is the Thoshe iron deposit. This lies about 200 kilometers northeast from Kathmandu at Thoshe, Gogul, Gunda. And this new change now, BDC, before it was Thoshe BDC, Ramesha. First explored by Nepal Bureau of Mines, that is DMG, and later by private company, NGC-IX Private Limited. Here, specular hematite is main ore with minor magnetite and traces of ilmenite, pyrrhotite, and pyrite. Two mineralized horizons, two different thickness, and so they are traced in about 4 kilometers. And possible reserve was calculated preliminarily, that is geological reserve is 15.9 million ton with average 46.6 grade, including from 30% to 62%. So this is the panoramic view. Okay. So this geological map, here we have traced this mineralization belt from Arugote and up to the Singati, very extensive trenching, and they're very well exposed, and they're old working. There are old working pits which I show you. There are almost more than 500 pits that are here along this, right? And not only that, in the Danga Digger and Sotre, there are also, we can trace mineralization further east from Barampu to the Salini, they are all these. But this one is what I am talking about, all these. This is about 4 kilometers. So this is the iron ores, by trenching, and then we are taking the traded channel samples. And then these are the ores, these old pits, and this is the exposure. And the old, in those days, localist people have smelted this iron and then prepared tripods and even the chain of the bridge. So these were the remnant of this gun factory. Here you can see all these things. They make 9 barrels of the guns. The tested 9 barrels of the gun has to be submitted to the military in those days. So that's why. And these are the old working pits you can see. So beneficiation advocated, beneficiation by simple crossing and washing with running water, able to upgrade up to 62%. That is what I did myself, okay? And the loss was about 20 to 25%. And by mechanical methods that was tried in NESL, this Mineral Development Corporation India, Hyderabad, and their academic report that can be updated up to 63%. Okay, upgraded more than 62% iron is suitable for the sponge iron, where and the Nepal NGC Mineral, this private company, is trying to and is planning to produce sponge iron to supply running the rolling mills and iron steel industries, whereas raw hematite for the cement industry, paint and other allied industries. Okay, this is the second one, the Phulchoki one. I will 2-3 describe because it depends on time how much I can give. So Phulchoki iron deposit, another good deposits, is located about 26 kilometers. Is very southeast part of Kathmandu, very close, and the mineralization band is stated here. If you see the lithography, and this is the test mining this tunnel, about 50 meters, still exists. You can go there, and then there is iron ore. So this by extensive geological mapping and distancing, fitting, as well as editing and some drilling. The mineralized horizon that has been traced like this, and by cross-cut and all this thing, and then that was 4.5 to 22 meter thick and 1 kilometer long, and that calculated about 10.67 million tons economic deposit, average grade 56.1. That is included. The proved deposit and the possible deposit also is included in 10.6. And feasibility study was conducted and the production of 103,000 ton of sponge iron. Similarly, small steel industry with 50,000 tons of its capacity. And this is the chemical analysis results. And our third prospect is Dhawadi, Pokhari, Durlung, and prospects. This Nepal Prashi is one of the largest known iron project, this prospect known in Nepal. This lies about 108 to 208 kilometers southwest of Kathmandu in Nepal Prashi district, and extension about 8 kilometers and thickness 70 to 25 meters. So this average grade is around 50. And then since it is a ulitic hematite, and this is the exposure I can show you in the next slides. So, sorry. So, this is the Permian to Eocene historical group of rocks, the Melpanic formation. Within this ferroquartzite, ferruginous quartzite, sandstone bed, there is a hematite bed, as I have to you. Now, this is the formation, yellow color, and then extensively by trenching, pitting, etc., the hematite bed was traced. And recently they did, in Department of Mines and Geology, they did 2-3 holes here, and these people are involved, Pokharel and Baskota, and they prepared all these things. This all contribution, not mines, okay? The DBMG contribution. This lower hematite zone, the upper hematite, there is in between some quartzitic and some these beds of shell and quartzite. So you can see very clearly, this is the road cut section, where you see this section totally clearly very fresh cut, okay? This fresh cut section, and this is ore sample, and then this recently the Baskota and his team departments, and then drilling in this drilling was in Pokhari, and these are the core samples. And still he said he had not got the final result of the core, so I can't give you it. And the other one is important, this Latikola iron prospect in Tadao district. So in here in the Latikola area, Nepal area, because if you try to continue tracing, then you can trace in Lister Khola, even Bhuth Khola. But the thickness is quite different in different places, as you see here. And then beside that, in Tanau, we have other prospects also in Gairal as well as in Kiran Khola. So this is the geological map, and then this is Lugdi Khola, this is Bhuth Khola cover, very famous old one. And then continued, even you can trace here, but thickness is quite small, but it goes further east. So this is the exposure in the Lugdi Khola. You can see our students, they have work over here many times. We take them feel very easy in this place, and our friends, Mr. Khadka, he did this map, and this for his photograph I kept it here from this Chautari Rada, where that was mined before. And this Pradhan, this very long time before, our senior colleague Pradhan has roughly estimated about 7.5 million ton of. Now I go in short because in the detail I can go because of time, so I shorten this. So like in Bangalore, we have got the ready core, say almost 80%, and the thickness and the percentage is given. And then this Lakurban area, and then this Khalakharka, Dhamja, similarly in Parbat district, similarly Gulbin districts. And so I'll say few slides here in the Bangalore, Redikori area. There are two mineralization band. This upper one is 4 meter thick, the lower one is 6 to 8 meter thick. And this is what we have traced roughly, these two mineralization bands in this area. And then in Lukurban section also, this is Lukurban Khola, we have the very clear cut two bands, upper one 4 to 5 meter thick and 3 to 4 meter thick. And this is collapse, old workings in this Lukurban area. And now the other import is Japan. This is Kachali, Ekgar, Patauri, and Bhatgaon area, and prospect in the Bajang district, far western Nepal. And we have divided into two, the three prospect in western block and eastern block. We didn't have much data because people have not done in detail. So our colleague, he had mapped it like this. And then anyway, this we can see the starting from the 2.1 to 15 meter thick band iron ore is exposed, but the very initial work that has been done. Similarly, in Baitadi area also there are two license in this Bajang area. These are the old mineralized bed like this, and then people would the selected iron ore used to fit for the smelting, and then this is the big iron they produced. So another Jalwang iron prospect in Rolpa districts, and then iron contained in some of ore floors in the Lungri Khola, Pagan Khola, and another Khola. That's our colleague, Mr. Joshi is here. He has mentioned up to 65.6% of this float in this float. So several ore workings are also located in. Similarly,
can you conclude now?
I will conclude just now. There's 2-3 places like this we have in other districts also. So prospective mining license, Nepalese individuals or company or foreign company, they are registered in Department of Industry, so they can obtain the license, mining and this thing. And also this investment holdings private limited and other African South Africa and 3-4 Chinese and 2-3 Indian companies, like including the Vandana Global Limited, were interested to invest in this, but they are not successful. So foreign mining companies and investors had also shown their interest to invest in industry $11.5 billion in this sector in the concluding session of Nepal Investment Summit last year. So that has not been won. So now about the situation, there is a mining license. I will talk about only about in 2015, 16, 29 producing license. Now in after 1 year, only 8 were validated, and 3 in mining license, and only 2 are validated. So proportion. So in spite of interest shown by the foreign companies, as I told you before, Nepal is a net importer of iron and steel. All the raw materials required for iron and steel that has to be imported from the foreign countries. Annual consumption is, as I told you before, about 10 million tons. And before conclusion, I have one slide. This is a situation of Nepal's annual total iron and steel import. The share of 10 major in space. If you see these 10 metal, 10 items, then you see in 12, 13 there were about distribution for petroleum is the first, the second was iron, so 16% of the total these imports, and then here now at about 103.7 billion rupees expended only to import iron and steel goods. Look, and that is whole import of the 22%, 19% of the whole import budget. Look the situation. Now I concluded, iron ore is known from 9 to I told you, I told you this, I don't try to repeat it. Follow-up in detailed exploration are recommended to prove the ore reserve and confirm the grade more precisely and all major prospects. Exploration and utilization of old mineral resources will generate employment, reduce the import, contribute substantially in the trade deficit and the balance, and save the foreign currency and overall increase in the national GDP. So there is a high chance to find out deposits in the other parts of Nepal, and government Nepal should give high priority to realize such resources and invite potential investors to invest in mineral mining industry sector so that our own mineral resources can be utilized. Sustainable development of the mineral resources and establishment of mineral-based industry play vital role. Now the last slide is government Nepal should realize the fact, understand the importance of minerals-based industry and include it in the national program with highest priority, and give priority to mining of already known economic deposits and explore the explore the areas, the Lesser Himalaya, the unexplored Himalaya, and the Gardini area, the higher Himalayas. This last sentence, mining is a very, very risky and long-term period business. Therefore, the government Nepal must give some incentive like tax holidays for a few years and made some amendment in existing controversy clauses in the Mines and Mineral Act, and rules and regulations to attract this potential investors. Thank you very much.
The next speaker is Samjawar Bhattacharya. He will speak on the glaciers and glacial lakes of Nepal in the context of the climate change.
I'm taking you on the surface of the geology or surface of the ground. That means the glaciers, glacial lakes of Nepal in the context of climate change. These glaciers and glacial lakes are not constant like as geology, whatever you have seen in the previous presentation. These are dynamic. We had mapped glacier and glacial lakes of Nepal and Indus Himalayan region in different time. But all the time, the number and area of those glaciers and glacial lakes are different. That's why if any one of you has to refer the number of glaciers and glacial lakes in Nepal as well as in the Indus Himalayan region, please refer the recent one. Otherwise, everybody will be confused because all the time the number and area will be different. This one of my colleagues is here, Sudan Vikas Marjan is over there. So in the abstract, I have given the co-author Sudan Vikas Marjan and Finos. We are very small in team, though we are trying our best to produce the maximum area which we can cover to map the glaciers and glacial lakes of Nepal. As the geology, it's very difficult to map in the higher elevation due to the harsh climatic condition, rugged terrain, and very expensive due to the remoteness. So the same thing, it happens in the glacier and glacial lakes. All those glaciers and glacial lakes are above 3,400 meters above sea level. So it's not easy to map the glaciers and glacial lakes in the field. Ultimately, we have to be dependent on the remote sensing. But whatever it is mapped in the previous literature or previous report, those are mostly based on the topographic maps, some aerial photographs, but due to the technology, those maps, slightly due to the projection parameter, we cannot use for the monitoring purpose, or we cannot use for the analytical purpose. Whatever the maps, it was mapped in the previous literature or previous study, it cannot be overlaid on the recent projection pattern. But whatever right now you had, the Google or the satellite image, now all those are very nicely projected, and whatever you do in the Google or image, you can overlay on the existing satellite image right now, but not 5 years back. So due to these limitations, we had tried on the topographic map also. There are a lot of error in the topographic map. It's extremely high. So we had covered for Nepal, mostly we had Kosi, Gandaki and Karnali. Some around 35% Kosi catchment is in China part. But a glacier, not for the lower belt. Lower belt we had the catchment area in India as well. But we have not considered that one. We had considered only for the upper part for glacier and glacial lakes. The Kosi basin has some around 35% catchment in China. This is a transboundary. Whatever the glaciers and glacial lakes melt over or flash flood, it will come down to Nepal. That's why we had mapped that area as well. And some part in the Kali River, Mahakali River, some section is a transboundary with India as well. So altogether the area is 176,000 square kilometers. So it's a huge area and mostly in the high altitude. So this is the latest data for the glacier and glacial lakes. Previously it was different. And this one, the number of glaciers is 3,808. This one is published in 2014. This is the latest one. And area of glacier is 3,902 square kilometers. That means the average area is slightly higher than 1 square kilometer. The number of glacial lakes is 2,070, but only in Nepal. If we consider the transboundary area to Nepal, then the number of glacial lakes will be 3,236. Sorry, 3,234, 34 or 24, something like. And potentially dangerous glacial lakes only in Nepal is 21. But if we consider the transboundary, then it will be 47. So altogether 47, and transboundary it is 26. One in India, in the Mahakali River, and 25 in the China. If it goes out, then it will pass down to Nepal. That means for the hydropower, it's very important not only to look inside Nepal, it is equally important to do the mapping and the analysis to the transboundary area as well. So as I had already mentioned that these glacier and glacial lakes are dynamic. So in the context of climate change, these glaciers and glacial lakes are changing rapidly. So if we say climate change, these glaciers and glacial lakes are very much critically sensitized by temperature change and the precipitation. So these two most important parts are the glacier. But other parameters as well, but we have not considered those parameters till yet because we are still in the preliminary stage. So from the IPCC report, the average temperature rise in 100 years was just 0.75 degrees centigrade in 100 years. But in Nepal, if we see, it was 0.15 to 0.6 per decade, only in 10 years, because we don't have data. Based on the 30-35 years data we had analyzed, per decade the temperature rise was 0.15 to 0.6. That means 2 to 8 times higher than the global average temperature. So whatever the temperature expectation it will be given by IPCC or international experts, then that will be higher for the Nepal. And even in the high altitude, that will be again higher. So IPCC is expecting 1.5 to 2 degrees centigrade to 3 to 4 degrees centigrade by 2100. But for Nepal case, it will be more higher. If the temperature and pressure, or if temperature and precipitation will be changed, then the ultimate impact will be glaciers melting and lakes are forming or expanding. So this is data from the Department of Hydrology and Meteorology. They had published the data in 2014 as well as 2017, but 2014 I have not considered here because that one is based on 30 years. And in 2017, they have given 44 years data to see the temperature, and here they have given altogether 0.056 degree centigrade per year increase. So this one is in Nepal, but if we consider by the physiographic zones or in high Himalaya, it will be 0.86. That means it will be higher in the higher Himalaya. And the precipitation is decreasing by 1.46 millimeters per year. That means the temperature is rising, glaciers are melting faster. In the meantime, the precipitation is decreasing. That means the nourishment or for the development of glacier, then it is decreasing in both sides. Income is also decreasing as well as expenditure is high. That means the resources or the source of the glaciers, whatever we had, it is decreasing. So during 2014, we had analyzed in the two specific glacier basins in the Langtang Valley and Imda Valley, where most of the glaciers are studied. Here we found the data from 1988 to 2008. The temperature data is from Department of Hydrology and Meteorology, and the decadal is the average temperature 1988 to 1997 it was 3.3, but 1998 to 2007 the average temperature was 5. That means the difference is 1.7 within one decade. Here also the temperature rise was 0.3 degree as well as 0.7, minus 0.3, 0.7, that means 1 degree difference. So we found the average temperature rise per decade was 1.7. Very rapidly, very fast. This temperature is rising in the higher Himalaya. In the Imda Valley, it was temperature rise by 1 degree centigrade in 1 decade. So at the meantime, the glacier area has decreased from 171 to 152, then 142, similarly 53 to 51, 45. That means the glacier area loss was 17% within 10 years. Here we had 15% glacier area loss in Imda Valley. Those glacial loss means there might have either the surface runoff will be higher or those melted water might be ponded somewhere. So from here, this is one of the examples of the glaciers in 1956. The scenario of the glacier in 1956, this one is the Imda, full of the time. In 1956. The same repeat photograph in 2006, you can see the loss of the glacier mass. Not only the glacial area lost at the surface, even there is a formation of a huge lake. And this lake is almost 2 kilometers, more than 2 kilometers long and 600 meters wide. And the latest information, publication from Lala et al., the maximum depth of the lake was 157 meters, mean depth was 65 meters, and total volume of water will be 88 million cubic meters. This one is before the reduction of the water level of the Imda. But I think this value is a little bit higher, very much high, because the Choralpa, which is 3.2 kilometers long, and the maximum depth is 132 meters, and width is around 600 meters. There we had 75 million cubic meters of water. And that one is a little bit long one. But I don't know, this depth 157 is too high. Anyway, the scenario is like this. And glaciers, we are losing the ice mass. Those ice mass, those are the freshwater resources in the form of solid water. It's a reservoir, solid water reservoir. It is decreasing. In the meantime, those are in the formation of the big lakes, huge lakes. If those lakes outburst, because those lakes are dammed by the loose moraine, it can breach by any means. If it breaches out, then the structure or any development activities along the river in the mountain community, all it will be washed out. That means not only the resources of fresh water, we are having the development of the hazard in our over here as well. So we had mapped the glacial lake. This one is the latest and still not published. It will be published soon. This one is the area where we had mapped the glaciers and glacial lakes of Kosi, Gandaki and Karnali. Karnali and the Mahakali part is a little bit in the India part as well, and mostly in the, and altogether we had mapped 3,624 glacial lakes, and only in Nepal we had 2,070 glacial lakes. So once we had mapped the glaciers and glacial lakes, and we tried to find out the hazard level or the risk from those danger glacial lakes. So that those lakes which are dammed by the moraine, they might be very much vulnerable to outburst. So we try to find out the stability of the lake based on either the lake will be the stable, it depends on the characteristic of the glacial lake, or it depends on the dam condition. If a dam condition is strong, good, then the lake will be stable. If the lake is growing very fast and erosional activity is very rapidly doing, then it will burst out. That means it depends on the glacial lake and the dam, that will be the stability of the glacial lake. Not only it is depending on the glacial lake and the dam condition. This will be impacted by the mother glacier as well. Mother glacier means those main glacier which is feeding to the glacial lake. It depends on the characteristic feature of the mother glacier as well. Not only this one mother glacier, another feature is the physical condition of the surroundings. Most of the gulf, it happened in Nepal and China, it was due to the avalanching or landslide at the lake. The mass which fell down or which was landed on the lake, and due to the splash of the lake or breakage of the moraine, then the gulf happened. That's why the most important is not only the characteristics of the glacial lake, dam condition, we have to take care of the mother glacier as well as the surrounding condition. These four parameters are very much important to analyze whether those lakes are really in the danger condition or not. Besides that, another big factor are the outpeak, which is difficult to consider in our study. Another one is the extreme climatic condition, very heavy precipitation in the lake area or in the dam area, it can reach out, it can break that dam. Another one is the anthropogenic, because these water are the resources. So any activity mishandled or wrongly handled to use those water, it can reach or it can trigger the.
Can you summarize them?
Yes. So we have not considered this one, and on this four part we had made the dangers. These are all the details. For these four parameters, those detailed parameters we had considered to identify whether that lake will be in the danger condition or not. So on this basis, these three not considered, on these three basis we had identified 47 potentially dangerous glacial lakes. So using the GIS, we use all those filtering, lake size and type. I'm not going in detail. Ultimately, we have identified 47. Out of these 47, 21 is in Nepal, 25 is in Tibet, 1 in India, which comes along the Mahakali River, and in Kamor, all details we had. So most of the potentially dangerous glacial lakes which may burst out due to the different parameter, mostly concentrated in this coast basin, and very few in the western part. So once we had the potentially dangerous glacial lakes, then we had analyzed the danger level of those lakes, and we had ranked 1, 2, 3 ranked, and at the same time, based on the existing hydropower or potential hydropower, development of hydropower, community infrastructure, we did the risk as well, rank and risk. 3 rank, 1, 2, 3 vulnerability rank, and 1, 2, 3 risk. Then we analyzed and we found 6 lakes in the first priority. That means it's a high danger and high risk. So 6 in Nepal and 11 in China. Those 11 in China, if it bursts out, it comes down through Nepal to India. And the second is Nepal 7, China 3, India 1. In the third category, 6, 10, and the fourth category, Nepal 2. That means we had all the information about the glaciers and glacial lakes. Then ultimately we found that in the context of the climate change, what's happening? That means the glaciers are shrinking and the lakes are expanding. Another one is those glaciers and glacial lakes are not only the resources of fresh water, but they are the sources of hazard for the mountain community as well. We have to pay attention in this way. So it is dynamic due to the climate change, so the danger level may change in the glaciers in the coming year. So every 5 years we have to make some type of inventory of detail for the entire area, and those we had identified the danger one, we should do detailed field investigation before reducing the water level or mitigating the risk for those lakes. And all those informations we had already published. Besides this, there are other publications as well under my authorship and co-authorship. All those documents you can get from this website. All those publications are online. Only those recently unpublished data, those are not there, but all other publications you can find here. And for the policymaker, planner, they can go to the Geo portal where you can see the applications, easy for understanding. And those for the researchers, those who want to do further research, they can get all those data sets in this website. And if any problem, you can contact me in this email address. So there will be no problem for the further research. And these data are very much crucial for the hydropower. Thank you.
What is the plan of mitigation for these drought?
Mitigation means to reduce the risk level. We cannot do properly. Till now in Nepal, we had lowered the lake, 2 lakes, Sorolpa and Imra. Similarly in Bhutan also 2 lakes have been reduced the water level, as well as in China also 2 lakes. That means those lakes are such a huge one. If we do something wrong, then it can burst out. It had already happened in the Peru. So very carefully we have to reduce the water level. Either we have to reduce the water level or we have to strengthen the dam. Either the dam is strong, then we can reduce the risk, or we have to reduce the water level. Another one important information is we had all those information and analysis based on the remote sensing and GIS. So further analysis is whatever we had identified, those 47 glacial lakes are dangerous. All those lakes should be glove simulation. We have to do modeling. What will be the impact if those lakes burst out? What will be the effect or damaging intensity in those basins to what level? We have to identify all those things. Based on that one, then we can see the mitigation measures along downstream.
Deepak Chamlagan and others.
Seismic hazard and other related topics. However, the uncertainty inherited on those type of maps are still in discussion. So today I am going to discuss about the uncertainty that are inherited in probabilistic seismic hazard that we are doing especially for the Himalayan region. Look at this map. We have here 3 sets of maps recently published, and these hazard maps are for 10% accidents in 50 years. 10% accidents in 50 years is 3 maps. If you look at in detail in this map, first of all, Thapan 1, they published in 2013. The high hazard zone or the higher peak ground exhalations are concentrated to extreme part of Nepal, east and west. And another paper, Rahman et al., 2017, so they also found high hazard zone east and western part of Nepal, but different depth. If you check here, this maximum peak ground exhalation is 0.625, and for this one is 0.87. And for this one, the recently published by Stephen et al. In 2018. So in this paper, the maximum peak ground exhalation is 1.25. for the same region, the same geology, the same tectonics, but the values are different. And which one is correct? So it's really difficult to answer which hazard map is correct. So this is the motivation for this research. So in this all type of research, they adopted a probabilistic seismic hazard assessment. And there are two types of uncertainty in this type of research. First one is epistemic. In this, model parameters that one could in principle know all the parameters, but in practically these parameters are not known. And the second one is aleatory, that is related to some statistical analysis of hazard. So that is why in this research, I would like to focus on uncertainty estimation in seismic hazard for central Nepal. And this is the well-known figure by Roger Wilhelm. You can see so many devastating, great, giant, or moderate earthquake in Nepal in different times. You can see here blue patches. These are the rupture area considered for all these earthquakes. And the Gorkha earthquake is, the epicenter was located somewhere here, and is terminated, the Sindhu also somewhere here. So I consider the section through the central Nepal, which is roughly this one, with the well-known cross-section for this one. And if you say here, the main fault systems that are in these sections are main frontal thrust, main boundary thrust, main central thrust, SCDS, and synchrosuture zone. And these all faults are merged with the basal decollement that is called main Himalayan thrust. So this is the structural section we obtained for the north-south section. And if you go check the geophysical section, so here two profiles are merged, and this one is for by in-depthing by the seismic survey, and this one is from magnetotelluric survey, and this also shows the presence of main Himalayan thrust somewhere. This part clearly shows, but this main Himalayan thrust mainly control the seismicity in this region. It is a well-known fact, but how, when it controls the seismicity, we don't know yet clearly. So here, these are the microseismicity here associated with this, and most of these all giant, big, or moderate earthquake are due to slip along the main Himalayan thrust. It is a well-known fact. So, if you see the rupture of this main Himalayan thrust during the moderate or the big earthquake or the giant earthquake, we have the different scenario. So this is the well compiled by Munier et al. In 2030. For example, if you talk about the western Nepal, the western Himalayan earthquake of 1505, this kind of rupture along the main Himalayan thrust occurred. That means whole system that is ran to upper surface or the MFT whole part is ruptured during this earthquake. And during the great earthquake like 1934 PR Nepal earthquake, this right from the transition between the right from the range to the south of the Himalayan front, entire fault is ruptured during this earthquake. And another type is blind rupture, rank. This upper flat. This upper flat only rupture. This is almost similar with the 2015 Gorkha earthquake. This type of rupture. And similar to the blind rupture, and sometimes these earthquakes also reactivated some of the other faults like acidity, and sometimes the duplex structures is ruptured, and similarly only the southern flat to the surface is ruptured. So these are the different scenario of ruptures that produced by the different type of earthquake. So this means there is no consistency in the rupture development during the moderate to big earthquake in the Himalaya. And this is the Gorkha earthquake, that's the tectonics. The Gorkha earthquake originated at the hinge of the main Himalayan thrust. So from this data, it is clear that the main seismospheric source for the seismic hazard in Nepal or the Himalaya is main Himalayan thrust. And let's come to this cross-section that were prepared after the Gurkha. There are two interesting papers. One is published in Nature Geoscience by Gauss et al. In 2016, another is Hubbard et al. So these cross-sections are for central Nepal, from the same latitude, but the different structure. Which one is correct? First one, it shows the single ramp here, and the rupture is somewhere from here in the ramp section, this Gurkha rupture. And the second cross-section you can see, here is only one mid-cluster ramp at the depth of like 25 kilometers here. But here we can see the two different ramps. One is the deeper ramp, so that is, it's a geometry also different, and another is just below the Kathmandu, they proposed another ramp that dips around 26 degrees, but this is 2160. So this means for the same region, we have the two different cross-sections with the different geometry. So what is the contribution of these geometrical differences on that? And we don't know which one is true for the same region. And if you consider the geodetic observation throughout the Himalaya, you can see here in the western Himalaya is about 13.3 plus minus 1.7 millimeter per year. But if you go to the eastern part of the Himalaya, this convergence, the slip along the main Himalayan thrust increases. That is, goes up to 21 plus minus 2.0. For the Nepal, especially for central Nepal, the convergence or the slip along the main Himalayan thrust is about 19.4 plus minus 1.4. So how this plus minus will affect the computation of seismic hazard? And if you look at the historical earthquake, so it has different characteristics. The first one is for 1100 AD earthquake. The rupture length is 280 to 400 kilometers. And similarly for 1255, 300 to 400. And similarly, you can see the great variation of rupture length in this part. And if you consider about the slip along the main Himalayan thrust, that is, you see for the 1100 is 9 to 18 meters, for the 1255 6 to 12 meters. And if you see here, the great variation of the slip along the main Himalayan thrust. And even in the magnitude also, there is no uniformity. So this means for hazard assessment, what values could be the more realistic? And recently, after the Gurkha earthquake, we dug some trenches in the Himalayan front of Nepal. So these are some of the logs I would like to show here. So these trenches we dug in the eastern part of Nepal. So this earthquake event is dated in between like 1146 to 1256 AD. And the slip is about, you can see here, slip is about 11 meters in this. And similarly, in the central Nepal, we dug another trench in Navalparasi in central Nepal. The slip is about 7 meters here. You can see the rupture zone here, Fortman, is about 7 meters. So from these discussions, now we have identified some of the uncertainty parameters. See, first one is geometry and extent of MST. While you do the seismic hazard mapping, so how will you quantify or they develop the geometry of the MST and their extent too. And similarly, the magnitude of earthquakes expected on the MST. So what will be the size of the next overdue event? And then amount of slip on the MST expected during the large earthquake. What will be the slip along the MST in the next earthquake? Similarly, the slip rate of the MST and quite short ground motion prediction equation. I have shown in the second slide different hazard map. So they use the different type of ground motion prediction equation. So for the Himalayan region, unfortunately, we don't have any ground motion prediction equation. So that is why this kind of error is very common. And another is shear wave velocity of shallow basin sediment, like G30, G1 and G2.5. So these are some of the uncertainty parameters that we must consider in seismic hazard mapping. So taking these 8 parameters, we try to quantify the epistemic uncertainty along epistemic uncertainty due to the main Himalayan thrust in seismic hazard assessment. So these are the sites. This is the section we have taken, and if you see the cross section, these are like this. These are the triangles, so the different sites that we calculated seismic peak ground resolution for that region. For example, these sites are chosen very carefully, and it covers all the tectonic setting of the Himalaya. This Birgans and this Chimera is for the Gangetic Plain, Indo-Gangetic Plain, and Hetonda and Bharatpur, that is the Dune Valley. And after that, and we choose the Kathmandu, Pokhara, and Banepa, that is the Intermountain Basin. And to the north, we choose Chautara, which is just above the mid-crosser range on outcropping bedrock. So these are the sites we have chosen for this analysis. And now to quantify the geometry of the main Himalayan thrust. So we consider both models because we have two models. One is single ramp, another is double ramp. So we choose both is a moderate ramp and deeper ramp based on the Eloyd et al. And the Hubbard et al. And these are the geometrical features. It's the deep of the ramp and the flat and the width of the fault. And this is magnitude. So we don't have the uniformity and we don't know what exactly would be the next earthquake magnitude. That is why we use the Leonard 2010 and 2014 scaling laws to calculate the maximum magnitude for rupture of 200, 400, and 800 kilometers. So we had three values: minimum of maximum earthquake, and the median, and the highest maximum earthquake. That means three values. So this is the value shown by this asterisk is the preferred value for the seismic hazard computation. And similarly, sitting along the main Himalayan thrust, we calculated in this, and T average is the preferred value for us. And similarly, recurrence interval based on the geodynamic data, that is 19.4 plus minus 1.2. On that basis, we have calculated the recurrence interval for the maximum magnitude earthquake. So these are the recurrence interval, and we use this 400 kilometer of rupture data for the computation.
Can you conclude now? Sorry, please can you conclude now?
Okay, so, and this is the different parameters we consider: maximum magnitude, sleep rate, and this is the logic tree. Actually, this logic tree provides the good platform to analyze those hazards. And this is the statistical approach. I don't like to go in detail. And this is the hazard map calculated for hazard curve calculated for the Kathmandu. Altogether, based on this logic tree, we have calculated 21,870 hazard curve for the region. And now let's come to the uncertainty analysis. And we plot the tornado plots for this one. And you can see here for the Chautara, this ground motion, contribution of ground motion equation, max, sleep, hot geometry, BS30, and sleep rate. How much uncertainty it provides. So CMP is the most important parameter that influence uncertainty in Chautara. Similarly, for the intermediate basin, Pokhara, Kathmandu, and Banepa, BS30 is very important, and GMP is another important parameter to contribute highest level of uncertainty in seismic hazard map. Similarly, in Dune Valley, Hetonda, and Bharatpur, GMP and BS30, and partly this fault geometry also contribute uncertainty in that region. And for the football site, like Birgans and Chimera, so GMP and BS30 is most influential parameter while you compute the seismic hazard in the region. And we also consider both single and double ramp model. So whatever the geometry, single or double, it doesn't have much more influence. That is the same kind of influence parameter we got for this region. Now I'd like to conclude my talk. In conclusion, most influencing parameter for the seismic hazard assessment in bedrock site or the outcropping bedrock site is GMP and maximum magnitude earthquake. And for the intermittent basin, BS30, because shear wave velocity is directly affect the amplification on that region. So that is why BS30 and GMP is important parameter for intermittent basin. Similarly for dune valleys, also GMP, ground motion prediction equation, and BS30 is important. And for the Indo-Gangetic plain, GMP, BS30, and MMAX is influential parameters. So from this, this conclusion suggests that in future, if you really want to do more realistic hazard assessment, we need to consider the further research we must do on BS30 measurement, GMP, geometry of MST, historical earthquake, seismicity, and strong ground motion. I hope this kind of the conclusion can give way forward to carry out the seismic hazard assessment in Himalayan region. Thank you.